All right, everybody, and welcome to the Path to Exile Podcast, Episode 3, partnered with Mobalytics. I am Cal Turk, and joining me every week, per usual, is MisoxShiru and Dead Rabbit, and we have another exciting episode for you guys. But before we dive into all of our Path of Exile 2 topics, a few things we want to talk about. First thing, we are on Spotify, and we would appreciate if you would go us and rate the show, like 5 stars, or is it thumbs up? I don't remember how Spotify works.
5 stars. 5 stars.
5 stars.
Five
Give us 5 stars on
stars.
Spotify, please. And if you have suggestions for other audio platforms, let us know in the comments down below. We might not put it on your obscure, far off platform, but maybe for something we're not on that we see a lot of people requesting, let us know and we'll try and get us on there. The next thing I want to talk about is we're going to be doing a episode soon where it's just kind of like predictions and like wants for 0.3 as we're getting really close there. We're a month away from the patch. So if you guys are like, if there's certain things in the community that you are desperate for, post in the comments of this video. Let us know what you're looking for in 0.3, whether it's new ascendancies, endgame balances, and go as in depth as you want. We'll feature some of the comments on the episode. It's going to be a really just like almost a community type of vibe, depending on how we set it up. But yeah, just let us know what you guys are wanting for 0.3. We're going to be going over what we want, and then hopefully a lot of our wants are answered soon. But boys, we got a lot of Path of Exile 2 stuff coming up soon. Oh, sorry, I do want to talk about the poll that does kind of go with that conversation. Is I did a poll on my channel about what my community wanted from 0.3, and what surprised me was Act 4 was the most hyped thing for my community. It got a 44% of the vote, followed by endgame changes at 30%, with Druid being the lower of the 3 things that got vote at 21%. When it comes to the new acts, like how excited are you guys for new acts?
I mean, for me personally, I think that it's like interesting, right? I had this conversation about acts the other night with my chat. Of course, I'm super excited about new acts and having all, just new content in general is always really exciting, right? But the acts, I think, is kind of like a big thing. I know a lot of people are really unhappy about like having to do the campaign twice and complaining about how the campaign feels too long, and Jonathan always come in like, once we get these acts all in, it's gonna feel a lot better. But I had a conversation with the community, and I personally, what ends up happening is because they talk about Act 4 only, I'm actually wondering if it's even possible to just implement one act at all. But we can go into that in a little bit. But overall, just excited about Act 4. Want to see a little bit more content, more things to do, more monsters, which means probably more map layouts and endgame. New acts always just mean a lot of content and a lot of fun, new bosses, all that.
Yeah, my opinion has kind of shifted on that because for the first, at least for the 0.1 league and for parts of the 0.2 league, my opinion was kind of, I think it's fine that they keep the full game as you want for the full release as well. I think getting more acts now, though, is definitely a good thing, though. I think it not only has some implications just for campaign, but also it has huge implications for me for endgame. Because most of the stuff we do in endgame is based on the stuff we do in the acts. That just means we get much more stuff for the endgame. Probably it means more bosses. It probably means, or not probably. It for sure means more maps. It means more bosses. It means a variety of different stuff, maybe other item bases, for example. It has so many implications. That I now think maybe they should actually prioritize getting all acts out. My worry, just like Miso, is I'm not sure how they will facilitate that with just one, because first of all, how will it be with campaign? Is it then 4 acts and we do 2 acts cruel, or is it then just 4 acts and we get to level 60 in these 4 acts, or how does it work? Yeah, I kind of think I think it's probably a pipe dream that we're getting all acts in the next update. I don't think that is happening at all. I know that some people say it's pretty confirmed that we at least get one, though. So yeah, we'll see about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of there are some leaks which I think we'll probably go into in a little bit, but I think so. I completely agree. I'm glad you went kind of the same direction as me with the acts and like how, is it possible to just do one act? Like, is it gonna be, oh, we do act 1, 2, 3, 4 normal, then cruel act 1, 2, or like cruel act 2, 3?
Yes.
Because I know a lot of people are complaining about how there's too much like the campaign is too long, right? So obviously if we do act 1, 2, 3, 4 normal, act 1, 2, 3, 4 cruel, that's just going to be increasing the length of the campaign.
They won't do that.
But then if we do act 1, 2, 3, 4 normal, then act 1, 2 cruel, or 2, 3 cruel,
No, they won't
I don't
do
know.
that. No. There's
just
no
feels-
doing that. GGG has added. So when POE 1 came out in the past, it was acts 1, 2, and 3, and then they added act 4, and then they added act 5, and then they added act 7, 6. Like they have done every format at least once. I don't see them doing acts 1 through 4 cruel. I don't think it's as complicated as people make it out to be, of like introducing only act 4. Versus like acts 4, 5, and 6. It really just comes to like, can they code in an ending that makes sense to the because you have to have a hard stop for the story that like doesn't discombobulate the player, right? Because act 3 ends at a spot where it's like you can pause the story there and it makes sense. I think that's the biggest hurdle for GGG. I like. There's many ways they can adjust the XP curve to where like you just go 1 through 4 and you end at the same point that you did at Act 3 Cruel.
I think it's more of just like length of campaign is my concern. Like I know that because the community doesn't like the campaign being that long, but I feel like cutting an entire 2 acts for the length of the campaign, like time wise, doesn't. I don't know.
We don't know how long Act 4 is yet. Because like right now, Act 1 and 2, in my mind, are really short compared to Act 3. Act 3 is a longer act, especially when you're not speed running it.
But it's not going to be the length of like Act 1, 2, 3 Cruel though. Like it's not going to be that long.
Like if you be shaving off only there's ways you can adjust the XP curve that like it doesn't destroy it.
Yeah.
I don't think you need. Like I would be shocked if it was like Act 1 through 4 and then Act 1 through 4 Cruel. Like that does not that just seems like GGG would just not release the act if that was their plan.
And that's where I kind of lead towards is like I don't know if it were actually that confirmed for Act 4 for one, but I also have another theory too. But the first theory is that I'm not actually even that sure if we're that confirmed because, and we'll go into the images in a little bit and maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more. But I mean, as I'm sure you probably know as a game dev that just because somebody's working on something at the moment doesn't mean that it's going to be coming out anytime soon. And also like the images that you're looking at they might not be Act 4 for one, but again, just because they're working on something doesn't mean that it's the next thing that's coming out. So people like if we think about it this way, and this will lead into my next topic, is that GGG had Act 4 since 2023. They've been releasing footage from Act 4, like the other acts since 2023. So it wouldn't be surprising to me that somebody is just working on an asset that looks like a new act. And maybe, again, that might not even be Act 4 that they're working on. Maybe it's for Act 5. Maybe it's Act 6. It might just be a future thing that they're working on that they're not actually going to be releasing anytime soon, that they just caught in the background. But also, hear me out, guys. And I talk about this on my stream as well. If we think about it this way, right? Originally, GGG was thinking about releasing the game with all 6 acts and not releasing endgame, right? I think that was the original plan. But then last minute, they're like, oh, guys, we need to scrap this. We need some endgame. Let's just go focus on endgame, release acts 1 to 3. Then we'll slap in Cruel, and then we'll call it a day there for 0.1 release. And I think if I remember correctly, that took about 6 months for them to do. It was like the last 6 months basically for them to implement the end game. So if we're thinking about it from a kind of breaking it, like if we're breaking it down, that means they have expected the acts to all be ready within 6 months, at least for the 0.1 release. So they'll be all at least playable to a point where they'd be willing to give it to an early access audience. So if we're thinking about it that way, that means the game has been out for, or will have been out for about 8 to 9 months at the point of point 3. And maybe they've been working on acts this entire time and could potentially not just be act 4. It could be act 4, 5, 6 in, in a manner that, again, would have been presentable at point 1. That's just my tinfoil hat coming on, but I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts?
I think if there's I think there's a few possibilities. If there's just one act coming with Act 4, I think, in my just personal opinion, I think the best thing to do would be just grab Cruel. I think that is not something that most people would be like, I want to do Act 1 and 2 twice. I think most people would agree that would be the best way to go forwards to it. Like Kalturak said as well, there's many types of fixing you could do with the XP gain, and that would still make, I think, if we have 4 acts and if we make it to level 16 4 acts, that would still make the campaign for most people a 10+ hour campaign, right? And I think that is fine in my opinion. I think going with the route, just like we mentioned before, just keeping Cruel in there, I think, would be the wrong way to go. Obviously, the best thing would be to just have all the 6 acts for the reasons stated before. But yeah, I don't know. Like you said as well, the whole data mining stuff, and that we have some stuff where we speculate on what's happening because we see it in the game's metadata or metadata, whatever, or on POE2 database or something. That could be something that has always been in the game already. It's just in the backlog of the game, and they have no intention of releasing it for the next update. That is something really, really important that some people forget about a lot of the times when it's hype around something new. Oh my god, there's druid abilities in the game's backend or something. That doesn't mean the druid is coming, for example. Just an example here. So yeah, we are obviously speculating here, but yeah, I think like we said, having a new act would first be super awesome, and also I think just getting rid of the Cruel aspect, having to play the same act twice, would also be just a positive thing for the game, I think. So
I don't think it's as tinfoil hat. Like you said, it was a tinfoil hat there. I don't think it's that tinfoil hat. GGG's had so much done for a long time. They said that the game was what do you say, a 50+% chance it was going to release this year, which seems ridiculous now, right? But you can't say stuff like that without having enough in the pipe to be able to drop stuff whenever you need to. It is possible. I'm not going to say it's impossible. I still I'm in the vein that there's a 33% chance that either there's no new acts, one new act, or we get them all, right? It's really up to GGG. I see all possibilities as it can happen. I just my opinion on it is I don't think it is as complicated. I see a lot of the arguments around it being this debate around how are they going to make the Cruel work, which is a good debate to have. I am confident GGG can make any scenario work. If they wanted to drop acts 4 and 5 and they weren't ready for 6, they could make that work. I'm sure they can make any scenario work. They've had enough experience with it. But yeah, I would say that I definitely agree with Miso. You have to keep in mind that GGG was very aggressive about Darth not leaking footage, and then the moment that 3 pieces of information from those footages was leaked, they were all, both GGG and Darth were immediately on it, oh yeah, by the way, this is leaked, and they're very clarifying that this is a leak, and they're trying to get ahead of it, is what I'm seeing. And when you're trying to get ahead of something, you're trying to be just because you see something doesn't mean it's coming. That's why you're getting ahead of it. So when you do something like that, there's a little bit of me thinking okay, maybe that is not something that's coming then. But I would say that I'm gonna join the copium train, and a new act is coming for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's the hope.
Yes.
Something in general though, with all the speculating we're doing right now, this is, in my opinion, also just due to we have ever since the 0.21 patch, we are completely in the dark. There have been speculations, there have been leaks now, or leaks. There have been stuff in the game files that people are looking for. I think that shows two things. Having this long of a break, I would call it, or having this long of a radio silence, first of all, is something that is not enjoyable as a player who's excited for the future of the game. It's absolutely not enjoyable. And overall, I really, really hope this is absolutely the longest Dark Ages, I would call it, forever. I hope we never have this long of a radio silence ever again. And also as long of a season that we had now. I think the second thing it is showing is just how excited people are for what's about to come. And that is just what is showing right now. Like, so many people are not even playing anymore right now, and you cannot really fault them for that because the replayability and everything you can do right now in the game is just very, very limited. So many people are just extremely excited to play this game more. And I think that is a very, very good thing, obviously. So I really hope the very, very long radio silence we had a 0.21 patch and then nothing. And I don't know, the 0.21 patch is almost 2 months ago, I think. So
something like that.
That will get the hopium going.
The 0.21 patch wasn't even like, I'm going to be honest, like the 0.21 patch, it added good drop rates, but like it wasn't enough where that could have been... half the uniques suck, and like half of them, the ones that are good, you can't get. But like, it wasn't enough to where that was a standalone patch that could have carried the rest of the league. Like, it needed follow-up patches that we never got. And I feel like one thing I'm going to be emphasizing going forward a lot, like I'm sending a video to try later talking about it, but like for me, the biggest thing Path of Exile 2 needs is more frequent patches. This game is not finished. The reason why we have such long, like everyone has a long list of requests of things we want is because it is not finished. And it needs to stop being treated like a finished product and needs band-aids all the time because it is constantly bleeding. I want to talk quickly about, because we're talking about the leaks and stuff. So Darth Microtransaction just got back from New Zealand, which was super cool. He's got like 4 more interviews coming out. Just like I don't want to dive into it too much on this podcast because it's a Path of Exile podcast, but I do work in game development, and for me, artists and musicians are special. And they get a weird rap in the game dev community. There's like a weird divide where like a lot of game developers say that artists and musicians aren't part of game development, which I think is crazy to me. When I'm making a game, I'm the game director, so like most of it is my vision, and my vision from the start of a game always includes art and music, to the point that we put in music and art that we feel like will be the final product from the get-go, so we like already in the vibe of it. Like, to me, art and music is more important than the mechanics of the game sometimes. Like, it is just so important for immersion and stuff. So like, I love that Darth is just focusing on these people that aren't just the game designers, because those are the cool jobs. Like, they're the rock stars, right? They get the cool fancy like balance updates, and like those are the ones we like get to see the interviews from. But like the people that are like, everyone does their part, but I just like artists and sometimes musicians don't get the love and respect they deserve in game development. And Path of Exile 2, like no one ever complains about the art and music ever. It's so damn good. So like, I just shout out to Darth for featuring these guys. I'm excited for the next 4 interviews. What is your biggest things from these leaks or these interviews that you guys are taking away?
I mean, so I completely agree with like the sentiment of art and music are definitely part of game design and development, and oftentimes some of the more important parts, like you said, the immersion, the gameplay feel, and just like feeling like, I don't know, the world building is just huge for any game. That being said, though, as a player, I'm not gonna lie, I probably would have been more excited to hear about, gameplay stuff compared to the art stuff when it came to like the interviews and the podcast. So, I'm kind of like on both sides where it's like, yeah, it's totally cool, and I really, really think that they need more, love and support. But at the same time, I'm like, well, I was watching the interviews, I was like, this is cool, but all right, where's the 0.3 stuff? Where is like the information? Like, but the thing is, like, it's hard to, because like even with the Zaki interview that I watched, last week or a couple days ago, I feel like it was interesting, but like maybe at the end of the day, I just want 0.3 leaks. Maybe I just want more information about 0.3, and that's where it all comes from. I don't know.
I think that's very natural behavior as a gamer, because on the whole artist thing and on the whole music and world building thing, I think that is always, especially as gamers, I think we take that stuff for granted a lot. It is just something that we notice, I guess, because it makes a game, or we feel it when we are inside of the game. But it's like Kaltrak said, it's not something that is just super harped on all the time, because we kind of take it for granted. But I think it's a very good point to say how actually important it is for a game. I think we're like 20 minutes into the podcast, so I can start talking about Diablo 2 again. It is just no, it is just something like when most people are gonna be asked about what made Diablo 2, for example, a game that has stood the test of time. It is the vibe. People to this day listen to the Diablo 2 music. They take the art style, like everything that game is not still played, and doesn't have a huge player base still for a 25-year-old game, because the game mechanics are good, or it's just not. It's because people are inside of the game, and they have, it's the vibe. And I think that is something, and I think we talked about this actually on a previous episode. It is something that PoE 2 has going for it. And it is something they should keep building on top of, because, like we said, yes, game mechanics, and we want to know, like, when you saw all the interviews with Jonathan, I don't think there was ever a question where someone asked, like, so in the art style, like, are you guys more focusing on a more dark kind of aesthetic? And with the Act 4, are you looking for a tribal sense of the word? No, people are asking, what build is good next? So it's just... We take that stuff for granted, but it's essential for a game like this. But like we said as well, PoE 2 has this going for it. We have an amazing art style. We have amazing vibe. Everything around us, just the game feels good. It when you're in there, when you actually have the music on. When I first played through the campaign, I didn't listen to music. I had the game music. I had just the game sound, the dialogues. When I played the Act 1 boss for the first time, and he is like shitting on me and telling me stuff. That is what a game like this needs, in my opinion, because that is what will make the game stand the test of time. It's the vibe. Yeah, it's just absolutely essential.
So you said that you're itching for more 0.3 info in these interviews, and from what GGG and Darth have been telling us, there's not going to be too much that's teased. There's going to be little things here and there, but we're not getting some big info dump anytime soon. This goes back to the conversation we just had about how we want more patches and stuff. Do you think there's a chance we're still getting 0.22, or is that just completely out of your brain at this point? Like, is there 1% of copium left, or are you just gone on that?
I think I'm pretty. I was riding that 0.22 train since I don't know. People all in my chat always like, oh my god, this guy's clickbaiting again with 0.22. This guy's clickbaiting again. I'm just like, no, I truly believed that 0.22 was gonna come, but we all did. At this point, it's so hard to continue to keep that copium up and that hopium. Just I don't know, if it was gonna come, I feel like it would have came a week ago or something like that at the latest. At this point, I think we're heading into August. The patch is coming in August, so we're probably gonna start getting teasers for it within the next week to two, and at that point it's there's not much of a point to adding a 0.22 anymore. I would have again loved to have seen it a week or two ago, but at this point I don't think it's going to happen, and it's such a shame because I think it would have been such a nice breath of fresh air into the game, and also because I think 0.22 was kind of leading into 0.33 0.3 in terms of the balance stuff, because I do remember Jonathan mentioning 0.3, a big part is going to be about balance and making sure like some of these skills that are combo skills might be viable as like standalone skills. And I think he also mentioned that as a goal for 0.22 when he was talking about that in the try interview. It could be a nice opportunity to him to get some of that out of the gate and like test some of the ideas and see if they work. And then if they do work, then they can continue to use that to change their future skills. Or the opposite could have been true and it didn't work, and then they could use it to tweak for 0.3. So it kind of is a shame.
Yeah. Rabbit, if like you're finally done playing POE 2, that's what I saw from earlier today. You're on the other games grind as we're on cooldown mode. Would a 0-2-2 be enough to bring you back at this point, or are you just like waiting for the full wipe now?
Entirely depends. I think, like Miso said as well, if it would be something, I would see a 0.22 patch as like a pre-patch, like we know from, for example, like World of Warcraft. I think they still do that before the big updates. They do like pre-patches where there's already a few things like balance changes and stuff leading into the big update. That would have been something I would have been very, very interested in because it would have shown a direction. At this point, it's just if it comes now, if it drops tomorrow, and there's like balance changes, and there's already a bunch of stuff to theory craft around in preparation for the 0.3, and at the same time we get some not news, but we get some info on what 0.3 will entail, that would definitely bring me back right now, because it would mean I can already prepare a little bit. One thing I was super, super sad about when we had the whole 0.2 launch was basically the lead up we had into that patch was, for me, it seemed very, very last minute. And as someone who wants to do league starter type builds or wants to prepare already what to play for the patch or for the new league, that was just impossible for me. The first video I did, I basically did speculation videos before Dawn of the Hunt, and I kind of figured, I can do some videos on the Lich now. I kind of decided early to take Lich as my league starter, but then everything when the update dropped, it kind of all went out of the window, because we're going to talk about minions later, because I kind of got ready for a minion build, at least for campaign, and then to go into endgame. And then they dropped a patch, like I think not even 12 hours before, with all the patch notes. And then it was kind of clear that was the completely wrong route. So in general, not strictly speaking about a 0.22, I just hope that we get more information about the new league a longer time before, because people do actually want to prepare. They want to get ready. Most of us, I think, don't want to go in blind when 0.3 drops. We kind of want to have a preparation going. We might be going for a certain league starter or something. So that is definitely my wish in that sort of regard with 0.22 and 0.3, that we get some info a little bit earlier, especially like patch notes.
It's interesting because I actually kind of have like the opposite feeling about that in terms of like, of course, I really want to get more information, right? As I've mentioned before, more information, more little teasers, more little hints here and there. I really, really want some more of that just to keep me going and keep me excited for the game. But in terms of like preparation, that aspect, I think, is a conversation that I've had with my chat before. And I'm more on the side of, I think that I kind of like how Path of Exile is going right now, with the fact that not everybody is pulling up their POBs and POEing the hell out of their builds before the league actually starts. That way you get to jump in there with the new content, explore at the same pace as everybody, and just like be like, wow, this is all this new stuff. And like, there's a couple reasons for that in terms of like how I want it to be, and also like I think there's a couple of reasons why it is like that right now for Path of Exile 2 compared to Path of Exile 1. But I just personally think that it's more exciting this way, that we can all just jump in and see all these new changes, all these things, and it doesn't necessarily have to end up being a, you know, POB fest like the week before launch or something like that, because like that ends up being, we get into situations where people are like already min-maxing builds before the game even starts, and I don't know, that just feels a little bit boring / like a little sweaty to me, I guess. Very try hard, a little bit.
That's why I like it.
I know it feels a little bit too much on the side of just like, hey, we're just gonna figure everything out before the game even comes out, a type of situation, which I'm not a huge fan of. But I do think that as we go down the line in terms of the release of Path of Exile, it's gonna be more like that as well, to my, I guess, you know, maybe not as huge excitement for. But I think it's because like right now we're in early access, to where like everything is just changing patch to patch to patch, like by a huge amount, that it just becomes really hard for us to actually be able to theory craft, because most of the things are going to be changing. But the other thing is like, in terms of like content wise and like skill wise, skill diversity, skill amount, there's just so much more in Path of Exile 1 that they're not going to be changing every single thing that's in Path of Exile 1. So you can kind of like throw a dart at the dartboard and be like, all right, I want to play this league starter, and for the most part it's probably going to be staying the same. Like literally, I think I mentioned this on my stream before, but like when I was prepping for the Secrets of the Atlas, I was looking at builds, and it's like, this guy's like, yeah, I've been refining this build for the past 10 years, and this is going to be a great league starter. And I'm just like, yeah, we don't really have that. Like we don't have like a build that's been around for forever. Like the builds in patch 0.1, the majority of them kind of got deleted and turn it into either something that's way too weak or just doesn't really exist anymore. So I think that as we go down the line, as we get closer and closer to release, as we get further into release, right, we're gonna probably start getting into that more, where there are going to be a lot of skills that just won't be touched for a while, or when they are touched, it's gonna be minor tweaks. Then you can actually start doing the POB and like prepping. But since we're in early access and the early part of early access, it's probably not going to be the case.
Yeah. I've got multiple videos on my channel about this now, where like I actually have an entire video where I like talk about how I don't play Last Epoch because they used to do the creator early access, and then you just get these day one tier lists and stuff. Like I don't like that. I'm someone who like enjoys the discovery of the league. I think it is inevitable that PoE 2 does and turn into PoE 1, where you're going to have people with like the weeks of Path of Building. I will never do that. Like you'll never see me doing a 45-minute video going over a Path of Building. I cannot stand Path of Building. My eyes glaze over. Like I've tried doing it like 10 times now, and every time I close it after a few minutes. I have not completed any build in Path of Building yet. I just want to play the game. It might be inevitable that you're forced to do that as a build creator long term, but we're not there yet. But yeah, I always like the discovery aspect of these leagues. I am okay with getting day of patch notes. I like going in semi-blind. There's a lot of moments from like all these leagues where like you go into this build, like the Bira's Ignite builds, which eventually got nerfed out of existence, right? But no one predicted Bira's builds being popular or good, right? And that only happens when you're going in pretty blind. And like after a week or two, suddenly this Bira's build becomes meta. It's like that's a fun, exciting moment from the community aspect of it, right? That only happens when you're going in fairly blind. And that can only happen in a game that's early on in development without like a defined meta. Eventually, like Miso said, it's going to turn into PoE 1. But I like it how it is right now. It makes it it's like kind of like the Wild West, I guess, where it's just every day you don't know what's going to surface build-wise. But I prefer it that way personally. I feel like what GGG should be doing, eventually it's going to turn into that, it's inevitable. What GGG should be doing in these early access patches is teasing what's coming without like too much info. Like show us the skills that are coming, show us new skills, new abilities, like new minions from the new acts and stuff. This, like, we don't have the numbers, so we can't really theory craft too heavily just looking at these things visually, right? But there are plenty of things they can tease to us that like don't spoil that experience. And I imagine we're going to start getting that soon, I hope, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah. I just like having the option. Like both of you said, you both really enjoy kind of the blind experience. I think people who do enjoy the kind of going in blind experience don't really have I had a comment before on something where I was like going very, very sweaty about a certain thing, and I was like super min-maxing something, and someone said like, dude, this isn't a PvP game. Why are you overdoing this?
That's how I feel.
I'm the complete opposite. I really get it. I love POB. I love just getting as prepared as I can. I love theory crafting before. I just want the option. I don't think someone who doesn't like that has like a big disadvantage. Because it is, in the end, you cannot, like, someone who's going in blind or something shouldn't then afterwards complain like, oh yeah, Dead Rabbit, he has like such an advantage now. I just want the right. I just want the option, because I really enjoy that part of the game. I like doing POBs. I like going in and already min-maxing everything and being prepared as much as I can. So I just want the option. I don't think it's gonna go in a way that PoE 1 is, for example, right now. I think, like you said as well, at some point it will be inevitable because they are gonna be go-to builds or go-to abilities that people are gonna be using. I think it kind of depends on how you or how anyone approaches the game. Like I said multiple times, so I just want the option. I just want the option of like, oh, I can spend a week before the patch now going into PoB, because I personally enjoy that, and I don't fault anyone who doesn't enjoy that though. So
how is Path of Building holding up right now? Because when I've only tried it a lot in patch 0.1. Like the first time I tried it, I spent like 4 hours in it, and like I was super confused as to what was going on. And someone's like, "Oh, Thorns isn't supported yet, so you're just wasting your time." I was like, "Oh." So like I haven't really dabbled with Path of Building much then. Like can you explain what Path of Building is to viewers who are like on like and that haven't used it yet, and like is it in a good state?
Path of Building is basically a third-party app, to put it in very, very basic terms, where you can simulate everything that you could do in game. For example, just to have it like that, if you want to test a certain build and you want to compare performances, for example, the only thing you could do in game is actually go on a character, level a full character, go on that build, and then compare the numbers or whatever, the defensive layers, how much damage you do with ability X or Y. Path of Building provides everything you need in that. You can import a character, you can start completely fresh, you can do your full passive tree, whatever, and just simulate everything, basically. To the other question, it's not in a good state right now. It's obviously getting a little bit not left behind, but it's not getting the amount of love it should be getting. I think that's to be expected, though. These people who do that are amazing. If I would have anyone that is working on Path of Building in this room right now, I would kiss them, even though we didn't get a lot of love over the past few weeks, and that's totally fine. This is, in the end, it is early access. I totally understand if they are like, if we work a week now on a big Path of Building update, and then in 0.3 everything is just thrown out of the window, that is just work wasted. So I'm a big fan. I think Path of Building is going to be pretty essential to PoE 2, maybe not as essential as it is in PoE 1, because the player base of PoE 2 is also a little bit different. There's a lot more players who view the game a little bit in a different kind of way, who don't necessarily have the same opinion as me when it comes to like prepping stuff, simulating in Path of Building. So but it's still it is an amazing tool for anyone who just likes theory crafting and just testing out stuff.
Yeah, I wanted to go back a little bit on like what we were talking about earlier about like the options and stuff like that, just because like I don't know, I'm all for options. I really advocate for options in terms of like, if you want to do this, do it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it, but just give the player the ability to choose. But when it comes to things like meta, and like when it comes to things like, the ability to choose how you play the game like this on a meta level, it kind of reminds me of like the lightning spear conversation And that's maybe it's also the way that I have an outlook at life. But people are always going to gravitate towards the best or the easiest path, the path of least resistance. And right now, we don't have that option to go towards the path of least resistance because, again, we can't do the preparation. And as much as we think and want there to be options for like people to, oh, if you want a theory craft, then, people can theory craft. If you don't want a theory craft, then you can just go in. When we end up getting situations where a lot of the, best builds or the best league stars are posted online on day one, then we're just going to get Lightning Spear day one. And everybody's just going to gravitate towards those best, quote unquote, best builds at the first day. Like, it's kind of like Path of Exile 1, where I think most people are playing, I forget, it was like a slam skill for something of snaking for Path of Exile 1 Secrets of the Atlas. It was like 50% of the league was playing that or something like that. And then, we're gonna get, and that was like day one, basically. And if we get into a situation where we do get all these, again, not everybody's going to be interacting with it, but once a content creator posts, hey, these are the builds that I have theory crafted, here are what I think are the best builds for the league, then everybody's just going to gravitate towards those at day one. And then people aren't really, like, there's gonna be a lot less experimentation, but also, again, it's going to be a different experience for everybody where, people are going to feel like they want, since they have the option to do it, they're going to gravitate towards this more path of less resistance type of situation. And then that has further implications about like how fast you clear the campaign, get into the end game. Then from there, it's like, oh, the first ones in there are going to be able to, take advantage of the economy and then make the economy inflate faster. Like, I feel like it can be very simple to say that we want more options for this, but like, again, for something like, it's like meta defining, it ends up being that there are a lot more implications than just like we have an option. And then people end up feeling like I have to go this way or I have to go that way if I want to keep up with the crowd, if I want to get to end game fast. Or it's just like, I'm just the type of person that, even though normally if I were to like try to do this, I would try to go and just not, go for the meta build. But if presented with the option, if we presented with the path to go an easier route, I'd probably just go to the easier route.
I think in the end, it's just about, in my opinion, it's always a little bit about less policing. I don't know if that is like the right expression, but I think having the most options for players and less policing of what GGG or what other people think people should play, I think that's just always a good thing, I think. And if we are provided
what you're
with
talking about,
options,
I don't think policing is the right word there. Maybe that's where I'm hung up on, because let's go back to the start of this conversation. The start of this conversation began with you saying you want them to give you patch notes sooner so you can start planning earlier. That's not policing of gameplay. That is like them giving you a gift early. Like, you're asking for a gift early. Like, that's not policing of gameplay. Like, they're not like, stop it. Like if the patch notes, like, they give you the patch notes last minute because they're trying to get in as much into it as possible, I believe. They're not like delaying that to like, I think you're assuming they're holding off the patch notes because they don't want pros to like start building beforehand. And I don't think that's their approach at all. So I don't know if policing is the right word. I'm not saying your complaint's not valid towards you, but I don't think that's them. I wouldn't say that's policing, right? If that's what we're referring to still.
I like how I kind of meant it is just, I want the most options. I want everyone to have the possibility of not playing in a certain path. I know that it's kind of a dichotomy to say that if we get information earlier, that will lead to more people going in the same path line. But it also means the whole theory crafting about people going off of the path is going to start a little bit sooner. For example, I didn't see, like, before point 2 or something, I didn't see a lot of people who said, yeah, Lightning Spear is going to be the best one in endgame. It was like bows first, like gas arrow, gas grenade, and then that was. But like,
that's because they didn't have time to like theory craft before. They didn't have time to like go into it before. But then eventually we all gravitated there. But then if we got it early, then it would get there from day one. At least from what I can, in theory, if you think about it that way, then it would be day one. We would be like that.
Yeah. I think in the end, it's just on GGG to have a good balance to builds, and then just give us the options to. I just want to play the game however I want to play it, and I want everyone to play the game however they want to play it, and that is the option kind of thing. Maybe policing builds was the not the best expression there, but I just want the least amount of. I don't know how to say it. I want the least amount of pressing down on us, and I feel like obligated to go a certain path. I want to play the game however I want to have, or however I have the most fun, or whatever. For example,
I genuinely believe that's just a state of the game just being unfinished, right? That's not like a shift in design philosophy GGG has to do. That's just like as we over time the game gets more balanced, you'll have that because when I think of trying how to solve what you want for immediately, you just want a more stable game. That's what leads to that environment, is just a more stable game. Which I think we would all like. Because I don't right now I have no idea. I hate I get memed on for bringing up Thorns every episode, but I'm probably league starting Thorns, and I have no idea the state. It's in such a bad state, and we have no idea if it's going to be GG's not going to touch it, or what state it's going to be into. The more information I have, I might get enough information to where I'm oh, okay, I won't league start Thorns then. So I get that too, even as a more casual player, right? I get that too. It's kind of funny, we're an hour into the podcast and we're not even through the news topics yet. Did you have something else you wanted to add, Miso?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, all things said and done, I think that just for me, the area that I think that we just need to avoid at all costs is that, we start getting to the point where we're, I feel like part of the, I guess, the theory crafting the heck out of every build, and every build being basically discovered, right? That's how Path of Exile 1 got to the point of just nitpicking at people for not having builds being oh, this is an optimum, you're 5% off damage here or there. And that's just an environment that I don't want to get into. So I hope that we just never get into that place where people are just trying to poke apart builds and making fun of people just because they don't have max the pathing, or whatever they're using isn't completely optimal and they're missing 5% damage.
That's kind of exactly what I meant by the whole less policing, or freedom of choice. And I think that's a balancing thing, one first thing, and then just if there's more options for people to play a very, very good build, or something that the community deems a good build, then that just already goes to what you just said. I think that will already mean that there's less of that, what you just mentioned, because how can you poke apart my build if it's not meta, if I'm doing all the content in the game easily, right? And I'm having fun in the process. Maybe I even discovered some things on my own and stuff. So yeah, that's exactly what I want.
Just to clarify so anytime I hear policing, my brain immediately assumes you're talking about the developer policing the way we play the game as players. You were referring to the community policing, how good or bad, or what builds are viable and stuff. Is that what you specifically meant by policing?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're on completely different pages there.
Maybe a little bit of both.
Okay.
I don't see
think
that
GGG polices players very
not at all.
At all.
Not at all.
That's where I got defenses, where I was don't say policing. I don't think Okay, so we were just on different pages there. I just wanted to clarify that. I think you're right.
I don't think
the community polices. Yes, the community can be very policey. Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to clarify that because I didn't want to. Yeah, we were on the same page there. Okay, cool. So yeah, we got more news, guys. This all started from the Darth microtransaction, from the artist topic. Just a shout out to DM. These interviews are awesome. I'm excited to see the next 4. We're not diving too big into them because there's 4 more coming, and we're probably just going to do a big info dump of all the important stuff for it or something next week or the week after when we have them all. But shout out to DM in those interviews. 2 things. I missed the PAX West, so we had the boss event going on at Gamescom. There's also one happening at PAX West on August 29th through 1st. We're not really going to dive too deep into it. It's the same exact event. It's just happening at PAX West. So if you're in the area or going to PAX check out the POE 2 booth. And then lastly, our homie Farham, he hit level 100 because he is a madman. Congratulations to him. First of all, that is an insanely impressive grind. Like the amount of hours he had to put into to get that. And then like having to do it without dying, like that one death 99 to 100 is like days of progress. So it's just... Oh, it's such a huge grind. I don't know if we want to dive too deep into the level 99 grind. The highest character I've gotten is 96. I don't know how high you guys have gotten. But GGG has already stated that they are nerfing the curve to level 100. But what do you guys want to talk about with the level 100 grind? I mean, the way I saw him doing it didn't look very fun. It was just very much like he could only, like he was like having to giga stack the tower buffs, the specific buff percentages, and then he was only able to do specific maps that had like good XP per hour layouts because he'd be wasting his time doing like bad layouts and stuff. Like it looked really gruesome.
I mean,
yeah, I think go.
Okay, I just think that I don't know. For the EXP to level 100, it to me seems that it's like a balance, right? Of like what is too much, what is too hard versus what is too easy. Because I think in Path of Exile 1, people can get to like probably level 100 on like day 1 or something like that, right? Or at least very, very close. And then I think that might be a little bit too fast. And then on the other hand, we have POE 2 where it's too slow, where it takes days and days and days, months, weeks, whatever, however long to get to level 100. And like, it's really tough because some people feel like a build isn't done per se until they get all their skill points built out, right? And some people want to have that feeling of really just being able to get their build complete before they can move on to another character. So at the place that it is right now in POE 2, it just ends up being where it takes too long. It really takes too long, and it doesn't allow players to actually, I mean, when we're talking about options, it feels like the only people who can really get to that level 100 area are the people who are playing every day, the people who are just min-maxing and like not making sure they're playing these builds that just never die and like all that stuff, right? Which I think is kind of lame, and I would really like to see them really change the curve and make that more accessible to more people. But again, not to a point where it's just like trivial to get to 100. And again, I don't know if like I've never been to 100 in POE 1 either, so I don't know how fast or how long it takes for that one. But to me, POE 1 is definitely a lot faster than POE 2 in terms of speeds of getting to level 100.
I think it's kind of a thing that where I'm kind of fine with it being a grind for sure. In the end it kind of has to be, otherwise it's gonna be like in other games where it's just everyone is gonna set that out as a goal and it's pretty easily achieved. So I am kind of fine with it being a pretty, not gruesome, but a pretty hard grind. Definitely, I did it myself. I hit level 98 on the first build that I played pretty early on in the league. And just going from 97 to 98, I decided after that I will not go for level 100 because it was just, it seemed pointless just in my brain for the last 2 points. You said just now that most builds are like considered finished when it's all the passive points. In my opinion, most builds are considered finished in terms of passive points on level 96, I think. I think 96 is what most build makers are setting the passive tree out for. I think that's kind of fine. I think it's a little bit too much now. I think it should be a little bit more achievable, especially when it's only really feasible for someone who can, play the game like for hours and hours on end every day. And also what Farham did in this example here, just that cost so much currency. XP maps, the tower setups, everything that cost. I think he said that like the whole thing from getting efficiently from 98 to 100, it cost him like thousands of divines in just setups and stuff. I think they just maybe need to do a little bit of a balancing act when it comes to, it should be it should not be left for the people who just wanna do the absolute most gruesome stuff. I think toning it down a little bit would be the right way without like making it something that is too easily achievable, obviously. I also think you need to get something for a level 100 because most people are just gonna not bother after 96 because it's just like 3 more points, 97, 98, and 100. Maybe like a little bit of an effect or something, or like a badge or whatever, or like a visual effect on your character or something, just to have something. I just couldn't care because it was just 2 more points for me on my Blood Mage. And on that point, I was just like, no, why would I be going for this now? So yeah, I think it should literally be an achievement to do that. Because otherwise it's just kind of pointless, right?
Yeah. The reason why they don't do that is like the moment you put like any form of like cosmetic reward to that, like the masses of FOMO like just start like the moment that's there, it's like, well, now I'm required to get 100, and I think they've pretty much talked about why they don't do rewards like that anymore, which is an unfortunate downside, which we would all prefer. I agree that like hitting 100 just right now it doesn't seem worth it. Even if there was a reward, I don't know if I would go for it. For me, my characters usually average out around 92, 93 before I start losing steam on them, and it's just like I could go further, but what's the point? The most shocking thing to me from the video, though, was just like how negatively impactful the navigating the Atlas was for leveling to 100. Like the downside of like we talked about how we hate mapping before last week, and how I hate the RNG of it, right? Where like a path, like you might not get the breach onto the map you want, or you might not get to the map you want because of like RNG or whatever, right? Like this was like amplified in his video. Like if the modifiers didn't land in the areas he wanted to with the right rolls and stuff, he just couldn't do them, and he was wasting money and time. And like the way the Atlas was traversed and how it impacted the leveling was just like, that was just the way I wanted to talk about it. That was what was most eye-opening to me. Like obviously like the curve to 100 can just be adjusted, right? Like there's a lot of ways you modify that. You reduce the punishment for like the level gap between 82 and 100 or something. Like there's a lot of ways to make that smoother, but how do you make smoother that mapping portion of it? Like no matter how easier they make it, that portion was like the worst part about the video for me. It wasn't the curve, which that's just a number change. That portion was like, oh my god, like if you're really trying to min-max the Atlas, don't bother because you're wasting your own money and time. Like people in chat said he spent over a mirror on that. Like no, I'm not doing that. And that's the thing.
Even then it's grueling.
Yeah, and even then it's grueling. So that's like, what are you like? Do you guys have any extra thoughts on that? Because that was what was shocking to me. Was just like, if you want to level, you're gonna have to give your bank account for it. And I don't know how that gets fixed without like serious like an XP curve doesn't fix that to me, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's like interesting because I feel like this topic really does go kind of hand in hand with our old towers end game Atlas conversation about how we think that something needs to change there, because it's, you know, right now when something goes wrong with RNG, or if like you get to an area with maps that you don't want to do or just are bad, like you don't do them, you don't want to do them, you can't do them. So it's like it kind of does go in hand with that conversation, how, you know, we need to kind of change that system, but kind of to an exponentially much higher level with this min-max and level 100 thing. And also gets me thinking about, like, you know, as we progress further and further into Path of Exile 2's life cycle, are we going to see higher tier maps? Right now, we're at tier 15, right, as the highest waystone, and then we can push it up to tier 16 and then tier 17, I believe. It's like tier 17, quote unquote, just like tier 15 plus 2s as like the ceiling for where we're going to go, or it might be plus 3. But as we get further and further, we get more map types, more map tiers. Leveling should start getting easier as we get higher map tiers because monsters are higher levels as a result. And hopefully that ends up helping out with this whole EXP situation. But again, I do think that the core issues, one of the main core issues beyond just the EXP curve is that tower setup, the Atlas setup, and all that.
Yeah. It was just shocking to me, like just looking like what he had to do to get. Like I obviously knew it was a grind, but the way you min max that grind was just.
Oh yeah, it's a T16 plus 2. That's right, T16 plus 2. So T18 is max.
It's kind of the thing we already talked about on the tower debate on the last podcast. That it's just the whole setting up for actually playing the game, or like to put it even more simply, having to not play the game in order to play the game. That is anti-fun. Whether it's for XP, whether it's for loot, whether it's for whatever, it's just anti-fun for me.
Agreed. Well, shout out to Farham. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just agreeing. Yeah, anything anti-fun, I think you just get out of the game.
Yeah. And that's definitely anti-fun. Shout out to Farham. I mean, the dude did what none of us wanted to do, and he got a lot of really valuable information. I really hope GGG sees that video and makes some adjustments, because we already know like the 100 curve is being adjusted, but there's other problems there besides that. So yep, shout out to Farham, great creator, and he constantly streams POE 2. I think he's streaming Torchlight Infinite now. That we're just in the the content drought for POE 2, but yeah, check him out. And that is the last of our news topics. So let's talk about gem level scaling. This is something I've talked about on my channel a few times. I have 2 different build videos that I have that made like 2 of my most viewed videos. One of them is for Magma Barrier, and one of them was for Arctic Armor, where I got their damage over 1 million damage with single strikes. And that was done through gem skill level scaling. It makes sense that there should be power locked behind gems level scaling, but my problem is that it just stops at level 20, and then anything past 20, you have to like get through very extreme ways. And when you're using a skill that scales directly off of gem levels, you're almost forced to use an item that gives that type of thing. Like, and what this punishes the most is unique weapons specifically. There are a lot of unique weapons I feel would be great that aren't great because you're going to use a rare staff with +7 projectiles or whatever. Like there's a +7 wand or +5 wand with a +2 focus that just scales mathematically way harder than this staff that doesn't have any gem levels on it. In PoE 1, when you level a gem, it's XP based. Your XP that your character's getting is also contributing towards the XP of your skill gems. And you can actually reach cap with the awakened gems and stuff. PoE 2 doesn't have that option. You're hard capped at 20, which can be expensive to get, and then getting to 40, there's only a few skills I've reasonably gotten to 40. And the ones that scale off of it, like, you're not allowed to use anything else that scales gem skill level. What are your guys' thoughts on the state of gem skill levels? Like just one capping at 20, and like, is the solution just way more ways to get gem skill levels? Like, so obviously we want the level of the gem to scale the gem's level, the power. Like that makes sense. That's how it should be. But do you guys have problems with this? Because right now I feel like I have a problem with it, despite being someone who's utilized it well. Rabbit, let's start with you.
I get the point 100%. It's definitely something that I don't like as well. Just like first point, and I think that is a very, very important point. We talked about a lot of uniques already and how some uniques are just outshined by anything else, basically. And that is, like you said, pretty spot on. It is due to that. There are many different nice uniques that have insane synergies or nice little like tidbits or something, and they're just useless because you will never get to the same damage types without the gem levels. I think it's just a little bit prohibiting when it comes to like building a character or like making a build. I think the whole scaling on gems is then just always being the first part. It is inhabiting build making, in my opinion, and it shouldn't be as important as it is. When some people, it is a pretty common question, especially among new players, how do I get more damage? And what is true for any build is always your gem levels. I'm totally fine with how it is towards 20, because that is basically how your character scales, right? You have to get to level 90 to get the level 20 skill gem, and I get that part. But after that, it becomes a little bit too much, and I would like to have more options to actually scale my damage apart from just leveling up my skill gem. It for sure becomes a absolute necessity when it comes to, for example, when you're looking for an amulet, you 100% want an amulet with all spells, or you want an amulet with projectile spells. That already removes so many other amulets. Same thing goes for weapons. All the weapons that don't have +7 melee are just thrown out of the window, because it will never, it's like the same thing we had about crit, right? Or with like the deepest tower. Nothing will ever compare. And that also then goes into the build discussion, or the discussion overall of everyone's going to be playing the most meta build and the best build. And that is always going to entail having the spark gem at the highest level. I think it's always going to be part of a build. Obviously, the level to the gem is always going to be a deciding factor when it comes to the damage of the skill or whatever. I just think it is too much, because it removes a large part of what making a viable build is actually about, and that is just like itemization. I don't want to just look at one stat, which in this case all spells or projectile skills or whatever, to that be always the deciding factor, because it makes kind of making a build a little bit less interesting to me. I honestly, I don't know how you would fix that. Maybe you scale that down, or you go for other parts that can then fill in the void for that. But like you said, it is a little bit, it kind of defeats the purpose sometimes in many of the systems that the game already has in place, because it just overshadows everything.
Yes, overshadows is a good word.
I mean, I think it's like interesting. Gem levels is interesting. I do agree that it is way too mandatory. But before I go into that, I do think like there is a little bit of kind of gate, like, you know, some builds don't necessarily want to have the highest gem levels, and that really comes with the attack skills in the class that don't have that much mana, because as you get higher in gem levels, the mana cost for these skills does kind of go through the roof. So there have definitely been times where people have come to ask me, it's like, hey, my skills cost way too much mana. What is going on? How do I prevent this from happening? And oftentimes with the limited amount of mana leech that we do have in the game, I just tell them, maybe take your gem levels down a little bit and then try to scale in other areas. But it's really hard because there aren't that many other areas to scale in, which I agree. And I think for me, the biggest solution for this problem is to take the scaling down at the higher end. I think right now, scaling it to 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, it's not going to give you that much more damage. But then when you get to 30 plus, 35 plus, that's when the scaling just becomes super, super high, which then creates incentive for people to get their gem levels to that high, making it feel like you need a weapon at, you know, whatever, +5, +7 levels to your melee skills. You need amulet to be +3. You need gloves to have +3. You need that helm. You need that scepter to get those gem levels to scale higher. So I think like the best solution in my mind is just to make it so that, yeah, you still get more damage as you increase in levels, but just reduce the amount of exponential scaling you get as you get to like the higher and higher tiers of gems. You should definitely be rewarded for getting gem levels higher, but I think the reward structure right now is just way too favorable on the gem scaling as opposed to other ways of scaling. So well, the other ways that even exist in the game right now. So just making that curve and taking it down. And I think they did do a bit of that between point 1 and point 2. Quite a few skills got their curves massively reduced. For example, Magma Barrier, as we were talking about before, you know, Magma Barrier used to be just like one-shot bosses at like 35 plus. Doesn't matter if you're critting or not. But this league, Magma Barrier is not as great in compared to point 1. So it did do a little bit of that, but I do think that they need to do more of it for more skills.
Yeah. I think at one point, like Magma Barrier was hitting for like 40 plus million for me last patch. Like just ridiculous numbers. That is way lower now. And then if I've got Arctic Armor back over to 1 million this patch. And then both me and Rabbit did the Wind Dancer build. You talked about melee skills, how most melee skills you can't push the 40. Well, Wind Dancer is one of the ones you can, because it doesn't cost mana. So that mana downside for that attack skill was no mana cost. So yeah, it's definitely not a catch-all situation. I agree with you there, and I have had such situations like that. I guess my question is, do we need more options for getting in gem skill levels? Does there need to be we have these new runes? Should there be like a +1 gem skill helmet rune? Do we need it on more, do more of the uniques need specifically to have gem skill levels on them? Because that's where my confusion gets, is how do we get all of these cool uniques caught up to the gem skill levels without just completely neutering it? I understand we need to bring the curve down more. I agree for the 30 plus, when they're in the 30 range, I agree that's the solid number, Miso. But there's just so many uniques that are just been made. I would use them if they had gem skill levels on them right now, and I don't know how to fix that right now, except for either giving more gem skill levels elsewhere or just neutering it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I mean, again, I think the more options is always good, right? Giving us more opportunities to get more gem skill level. Like in POE 1, there's a lot more ways to get gem skill level in that. And then there also, in POE 1, there's a lot of specific that's chaos gems or boast, this specific type of skill that gets more gem skill level that we can add into the game as well. But at the end of the day, I do think that reducing the incentive to go for gem skill level will overall reduce the feeling of that being a required thing. Again, reducing the higher end curve, making it feel that, making it so that you feel like you're not required to go to 30 plus to make your skills go, crazy damage. At some point, it might be a little bit more diminishing returns rather than anything.
So I guess my biggest complaint about gem skills now outside of that is that during the campaign, I don't know, especially leveling characters this late into the campaign, I'm sure you guys have 0 spirit gems from level 4 through 15 stocked up right now, right? So part of the gem skill problem I have is I can't even level characters efficiently because I'm missing the gem skill levels. And do you want a vendor or something that you can buy lower level gem skill levels or something? Should there be a way to down rank them? Do you I assume we all have this problem though, right? Where specifically with spirit gems, I don't get the level with spirit gems.
100%. I mean, at the end of the day, it just in POE 1 you can buy skill gems. Right, yeah, you have the vendor, yeah.
So
I don't know why they don't have it in POE 2.
I was just about to say that why have it as a drop at all? I get it that it is something in the end game where it's oh yeah, finally I dropped a level 20 skill gem. That is definitely something that should be part of itemization or build making, however you want to call that. But why not just have a vendor? It's pretty trivial anyway right now. It's not like that you're in campaign all the time, just looking for the skill gems or whatever. In my opinion, it would kind of make sense that I hit level 15, I can buy a level 5 skill gem now. I don't know why that couldn't be the case. It would also just remove dead space when it comes to stuff that is dropping and stuff. Yeah, it's not that crucial that it couldn't be. Yeah,
they add a lot of ground bloat. Skill gems do add a lot of ground bloat during the campaign and stuff. So I definitely agree with that. I do I mean, I would not be sad if level 20 skill gems not dropping was removed, but I do I mean, it is cool that you do finally get the level 20. So maybe 18 plus is when they start dropping and you can get 17 below from vendors or something. I don't know. There might be some middle ground there, but yeah, I'm glad we all agree there, because there's so many characters that would be I want to do this fun character where I'm there's so many leveling uniques, in Folding Dawn, I think, that gives you 100 spirit. There's so many fun builds you could clown around on with using 8 spirit gems, but that would cost you 40 divine right now. So, and you wouldn't be able to level those gems up. You'd be able to get them at level 4, and then yeah, it's just awful. So.
I don't understand. It's crazy to me that, a level 6-8 spirit gem is more expensive than a level 21. That just doesn't make any sense to me. So at the very least, I think they should at least add let you do gems in currency exchange, right? making it so that it's a lot more accessible. One of the main reasons why they're so expensive is because it's so hard to get your hands on them. But if you had people, like if you had an easy way to trade them, buy them from people, the price would probably go down. But then, you know, at the end of the day, I just don't understand. I think the best way to do it is just make it so you can buy the lower gems from the vendor. Like if you've reached that certain level, like Rabbit said, just let you buy it outright.
I like that a lot.
Worst thing in the world is like hitting level 90 and I'm still on my level 19 skill gem and I'm just like, for some weird reason, I'm just not finding one. And that just, when I'm level 90, I'm supposed to have the level 90 skill, which is level 20. I think that is just natural. Yeah. Having the RNG factor of having to wait for a level 20 skill gem, especially when you're like SSF or something, just feels bad. It's probably very, very frustrating when you're SSF or something. You hit level 90 and you need, like, I don't know, you're going dry on a level 20 skill gem for hours and hours and hours because you're level 90. You did your part. You should be on a level 20 skill gem, I think.
Yeah,
I think you don't need just one of them. You need 7 of them. So it's a bigger problem.
Yeah,
though.
Exactly.
I think it goes back to just like POE 1 where skill gems, like, because they basically are trying to take a skill gem system from POE 1 and making it a little bit, you know, more flexible, more easy to use. Because in POE 1, you have to level up your skills, right? Which getting to level 20 a lot of times does take a good bit of time. Of course, as we've gone later and later into POE 1, that has gotten easier and easier over time, but definitely it still does require some effort to get gems to level 20 and you know, beyond in POE 1. I think it's way easier to get, like, you know, higher level gems in POE 2 compared to POE 1. So I think they wanted to keep that just like a little bit consistent where it isn't just like, oh, I can get a gem whenever I want at the higher end, which is why for me personally, I mean, I still do like somewhat of the ability to, as you like, I still like the idea that higher level gems are more valuable than lower level gems, because if we just put them all in the vendor, they'd all be worthless. But I do agree and do have a desire for them to give us more opportunities and more ways to get higher level gems. I've thought about, like, oh, you know, if you have a certain amount of lower level gems, you can combine them to get a higher level one. Maybe it's like an omen or something like that. Just other ways to get higher level. I'm not necessarily completely sold on the idea of just being able to buy a level 20 gem outright, but yeah. I do think that there need to be more options for us to get that level 20 gem.
Yeah, like a good, like, so here's the argument I can make for more options is I like the level with a lot of really silly skills. One of my favorite skills to play with right now is Living Bomb. The only way you get Living Bomb is from a staff, the Pyrophyte staff. And there's no ways you can scale it to level 20 right now. You can only get it to level 19. A level 20 version does not exist on the staff. And there's no Prism of Belief for Living Bomb. A lot of the staff or weapon-based skills don't have Prisms of Belief for them. So, like, when you look at those specific skills, that's where you really see that it's hard to get them as high as possible, because you're, one, going to have to use, like, you're not able, like, Prisms of Belief are huge. Like a +3 Prism of Belief is like how you push it to 40, right? So, you know, when I think of like a skill like Living Bomb, that's where I think of just it would help more to be able to get to 30 easier. But, you know, I wouldn't want to be like 40 a hard requirement for it, to where, like, if you don't get 40 Living Bomb, you're not going to be able to kill bosses, right? But yeah, they're like, for those skills specifically is where I would say I want more stuff. Yeah. Talking more about skills. So this is a big topic that I've wanted to talk about for a long time on my channel. It is support gems being locked to 1 per skill gem. This is a big topic. In PoE 1, you can double up the support gems on as many skills as you want. If you wanted to put greater multiple projectiles on 4 different skills, go for it. Like, you can do that, no limitations. In PoE 1, unless you're playing Gemling, you're limited to 1 support gem per your character. You can't have it on multiple skills. A lot of people say this is very limiting, and it makes build making less versatile. I am going to be taking the devil's advocate approach to this topic. My worry is if we opened it up to multiple support gems, and every single skill gem right now would be using concentrated effect and like those type of support gems. Like right now, based off of the diversity we have, it would not lead to a more diverse build making environment. Right now, I am finding myself having more creativity, having to use more support gems across the board instead of stacking them. So for me as a PoE 2 player, I don't hate the idea that we're limited to one per. I get the argument that other people would. I want to hear what your guys' thoughts on. I can see it going both ways, but I don't find it completely limiting like others do, because I also just think of a world where it would just be the same support gems on like you have these ones that do the more damage, right? Like some of them do 50% more, 40% more. Like you're gonna see those on like 3 different skills in every loadout, and then yeah. So that's my biggest concern. I wonder what your guys' thoughts are. Let's start with Miso.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I actually do agree with what you're saying. I do actually like that we have limited support gems for that reason of diversity. Like, at the end of the day, we're just gonna get every single skill with primal armament or like, what is it, close combat, or if you're using a deepest tower setup, every single skill is going to have execute on it, or it just ends up being that every single skill is going to have the same set of support gems. And I think that's just, I don't know, as it stands right now, I don't see a future that if you let every single skill use support gems, like being able to use multiple support gems everywhere, I just don't see a world where we're going to be getting any diversity in our support gems. If it's like all attack skills are going to have this, all elemental skills are going to have this, all range skills are going to have these ones. I just don't see a world where that changes. But also another thing to point out is like one of the reasons why PoE 1 doesn't have this system is because you don't have the flexibility of like you can just slot anything into any socket. Like you have colors, and then you have links, and then also not every single piece of gear has 6 links. You can only have a maximum like 2 6 links like on your chest and a 2-handed weapon in PoE 1, whereas in PoE 2 you can have that 6 link on every single skill, and then you just end up getting like ridiculous levels of power scaling if you're able to use the same 6 links on multiple attack skills.
I agree 100%. I don't think it's too devil's advocate. I think this is actually how it's supposed to be. I think having the ability to stack multiple support gems on multiple skills would not be a good thing overall. I think, especially seeing how we are. I would say we're not even close to the finished product when it comes to support gems. There are gonna be so many more. I'm not sure how many they added with the current league, but it's a lot that are still coming. And there is so many cool little interactions with certain skills and certain support gems. It would be a little bit boring, in my opinion, if it would just be concentrated effect. It would be primal armament. It would be martial tempo. Every single build that uses any sort of attack speed or any sort of attack skill would have martial tempo on every single skill. And from a build making perspective and from a variety perspective, I think that is not the way to go in this game here. There is a situation sometimes in here where it comes to the point where you're not really even slotting most skills with 5 support gems because you're just running out of options. And I think that's a good thing, kinda, because it definitely means that more people are also going to be looking for maybe new options on what to slot in these types of situations. And in the most cases, the main skills, like for example, this league, Lightning Spear or Lightning Arrow or whatever, there is more than 5 options already for these. There are multiple different versions, and I've had this multiple times where I'm like, maybe I can use this in Lightning Arrow, and then I can use this from Lightning Arrow in another skill. And I really like it being that way. I'm not surprised that we're all in agreement on this, because I think it's something that is a positive thing when it comes to build variety.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess it was in 0.1 that I initially heard this. I don't know if the community, like, sound off in the comments where you stand specifically on this discussion, especially if you're like a heavy PoE 1 player. I love the point that you brought up, Miso, about the 6-link versus like how in PoE 1 you don't have that many 6-links. Like that is the biggest determining factor. But there's been a lot of times this league alone where what's the one that lets you it translate, like whenever you gain damage as an elemental damage, it converts it to cold. What's that support gem called?
Embitter.
Yeah,
Embitter. Yeah, like I probably wouldn't have never used that support gem if like we were like more open to like duplicating, right? Like that's one that you like try, like that's one that you slot in, you know, for these like fun little testing moments, and like, you know, you get to experiment more with that. I don't know. So like, I'm glad we're all in agreement. I just didn't know if like the PoE 1 mentality would have been still against that early on.
Yeah, I think that as we get further and further into the game, as many people have said, the more support gems we have, the less issues we'll run into where we do. I mean, there's always going to be the, you know, probably the best in slot support gems for probably multiple skills. But as we get more and more support gems and more useful support gems, because there's quite a few of them that I feel like aren't very useful right now, we'll see this problem kind of start going away little bit by little bit, because you're just going to have more options. And also maybe it's about like having support gems that are a little bit more targeted towards certain types of skills as well. Like things like concentrated effect are pretty universal for any area skill, just gives damage for them. But then as we get more like, oh, this is only viable for like, you know, fire skills, or like this is only for like spells. I mean, we still have a couple of those, but like this is only viable for like elemental skills, things like that. As we get more and more of those, we'll probably see that we don't have to do like this current situation where every single skill wants the same thing. Like maybe as we get more strict requirements for the gems, the actual scaling will be better, but it can only be used on a certain subset of skills. So you're going to choose that one over another one for that skill specifically, whereas other skills you're not going to be using it.
So just saying like like not maybe a fictional world, but let's just say like in 2-3 years right now, we've added 1,000 support gems to the game. In that world, do you think it would be more reasonable to open up like being able to stack support gems, or do you feel like it's just like a forever type thing where like you would just prefer it to be one, like without drastic system changes? Because my head tells me I want it this way for forever in PoE 2. Like I just kind of prefer it this way, no matter how many support gems get added.
Yeah, no, and I thought like for me, that's the situation where I feel like people will be complaining less about not being able to use different support gems because you have more options.
Anything to add, Rabbit?
No, I think the argument of more support gems only supports the argument of not having them to be able to stack. I think.
Cool. Yeah, I'm curious what the comment's going to say, because I just remember early on that was one of the complaints from you know, the PoE 1 audiences that they were just used to being able to stack it, and they found that limiting. But to me, it was the opposite. And yeah, seems like at least as us creators, we agree. Let's move on to companions. Companions were something I was so excited for, and then I engaged with it for like an hour, and then from there, the only times I used companions were when I bought companions. So for me, companions have just like missed the mark completely across the board. Collecting them and their like usability of them, like collecting them is awful. I'm never going to do that reset grind for hours and hours and hours. I feel like there has to be something there, whether it's like you can merge like 2 different like the recombinator of them or something to like combined auras. Like there has to be a better way for that. And I just feel like they suffer from the minion problem, where even if I do have the companion I want, I'm usually going too fast for it. It's not with me half the time. It's usually not doing what I'm wanted. Like if it's an aura bot, we don't have minions that are good aura bots right now. It's not like we have like a monkey that sits on the shoulder that's always with you or something, or like a companion that's like a minion that just only follows and never attacks. They're usually off in the corner doing something you don't want them to. So to me, companions are just a big L. How much have you guys played with companions? I've literally tried them a couple times week 1, and then from there it literally never felt worth even like ignoring getting them. It never felt worth the spirit to use them.
I played with. Yeah, go ahead.
The thing is that there's basically one companion that everyone's looking for now. It's just a
Wolf?
No, not the type of companion, but it's just gonna be hasted and haste aura. And that is kind of, I went on a little like Pokemon hunting stream where I just did the same map over and over again because it was after the nerf to, or I don't know how they changed it, but you couldn't get the companion with that reset thing you were talking about anymore. And that it felt exciting, to be honest, for the first hour, and then it kind of became less and less exciting every time, because it was just like, it's once again something where I'm always saying this is anti-fun because it didn't feel like I'm really playing the game, and I'm just like trying to get a conditional that I really need for this build or something. That is kind of the problem, I think, because there is just something that most people want, and in this case it's haste aura and hasted. Maybe if there was more stuff that could be good for certain builds on certain companions, and it would be a little bit easier to actually choose what you want on them, then I think it would already be a much, much better system. The way that it is right now, since most people are looking for one, and the chance to actually get these two modifiers as like the combination, that feels a little bit what you're calling like a big L. I think that part is the L here. I think companions overall are a great system. I think it needs to be improved on. I think specters are an amazing idea. It just didn't really hit the mark as it stands right now. I'm a big fan, but yeah, at the same time, I think if they just keep improving on that, I think it could be something that most people are going to be looking forward to in using and stuff. It's a rough run right now. Minions, specters, companions all kind of have the same problems right now.
Yeah, I think a lot of the companions conversation leads directly into like the minions and specters conversation, as well as, like Rabbit said, a lot of the problems are very, very similar. I think one of the things that I want to talk about, less of like companions as meta and how people use it in the meta. I want to talk about a little bit more about like the aspect of companion as a form of damage, because we do have companion damage nodes and things like that, but I don't think companions are very good as damage dealers. Like there's no real companion damage dealing build out there that I've seen that is viable. So I think that aspect needs to be fleshed out more. Whenever I see people taking companion damage nodes, it's because they're taking it along with the one that's like, oh, your character also gains the damage that you're getting from your companions. That's the only reason why you would take those nodes. So there's not really a viable companion build out there right now, which kind of is unfortunate, because they do have like the keystone where it's like, oh, you can take two companions of different types, and like they have all these nodes where you can get more damage from them and make them more effective. But at the end of the day, those nodes are just not used, because all you use companions for are for utility. All you use companions are for the auras that they provide, and nothing beyond that, which is really unfortunate. And I would like to see them do more in letting us use companions as a viable damage option.
Yeah, I think very early on in 0.2, there was a minion with, maybe I'm thinking of something else, but maybe I think there was a companion that had Lightning Strike, and people were using Lightning Strike or one of the lightning killing abilities from companions to clear stuff, and that got nerfed like day 1 or 2 of 0.2. And from there has been no viable minion DPS build that I am aware of. Yeah, I like when I think of companions, I feel like they are worse than minions and specters like across the board. Like there's no viable reason. Like sometimes companions cost like 60 spirit. Like a 60% of your spirit, not 60 spirit, 60%. Like just the cost of them is so insane for them being like a pitiful aura bot. Versus like a minion who's going to like actually provide you damage and costs like 16 spirit. So just like the spirit cost percentage of it, I think is just grossly disproportionate unless they're really wanting companions to be like, I'm a hunter, I'm a beast tamer, and this companion is like a good portion of my damage and my playstyle. Like that would make more sense to how they set it up, but it's not even close to that. Like it's very specific auras. Like a lot of fun fairy crafting was going on. Like if you got the specific invulnerability aura with hasted and you could get 2 companions with it, there's a situation where you're permanently invulnerable with them both alternating their auras. And it's like, but like none of that was ever really possible. Yeah, it just hit them. Completely missed the mark for me. I would much rather invest in this specters or minions, just like straight minion gems.
I just don't like the percentage spirit costs in general being in the game like that. Like percentage spirit, it just makes things a little bit weird when it comes to like calculating how much spirit you need to get everything in.
Yeah.
Like I just want
that requires
them to
POB.
Yeah, I just want them to go away with it in general.
Yeah. There's been a few times I tried companions this league. What's funny is like going into this league, I was like Rabbit. League started tactician. I went artillery ballista tactician because I had already done artillery ballista. I figured it would transition well into this league, and then I could go into minions because tactician has that allies in your presence get % damage of your weapon or something thing. And I was gonna try and combine that with the companion of the Blood Thief Queen. But what's funny with the Blood Thief Queen is when she spawns her Locust, for some reason, only with a companion and not the Spectre, the companion will spawn enemy Locusts. So you can't even use them from her as a companion. And then you have to do the Spectre version. And then, so I guess we could talk. We're already at about almost 2 hours, and I feel like the minion dive will be a big topic. Do we want to just drop the rest of the topics and go into minions, or do we want to save minions for next week?
Oh, I think minions would be.
I mean, we can also do all the topics and go for a long episode too. But I'm just pointing out we're already at 2 hours, and we could easily talk for another 2.
I think minions. I think we should finish off the minions since we're already talking about companions.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, since we're talking about so I've done multiple minion builds. I've done skeletal snipers in 0.1. I've done 2 or 3 this patch. The last time I did a minion build is I was doing it was a mass minion build using Unearth with specters of the Gilded Beetle and the Blood Thief Queen. Those are minions that summon minions, and then when those minions they summon died inevitably because they're low life white minions, I used their corpses to res with Unearth. And unfortunately, that build was going really well. I hit like 85, and then they removed Gilded Beetle from the game. I was hoping it was going to come back any day in a patch. I was just hoping it was temporarily disabled and coming back. I had some weird I was like, I'm not going to finish the build until then, so the build just never got finished. That is like the story with minions is like the good ones just get removed from the game. All the good specters I played with, like the Fire Pig, it got removed from the game day 1. Like anything cool or good with it was either the specters were either just completely useless or they were good and eventually got disabled. How many specter builds did you guys try? Miso, let's start with you.
I did not play any minion builds, so I tried 0 specters. I mean, I have an opinion on them, and I've researched up on like what the problems of specters are, and I'm happy to talk about that. But in terms of like my own experience with specters, I didn't play any of them because, to be honest, minion builds this league not that good. They kind of got absolutely destroyed between 0.1 and 0.2, and I didn't even think they were OP in 0.1. So I don't know what they did.
I just want to say that for me, like when you mentioned leveling, I did not level any of the builds that I played this patch that were minion builds. I did not level them. I had leveled them as something else and then transitioned them to minion builds in late game because leveling as minion builds is just
rough.
No.
Good point there, because I actually started my league, my whole leveling on a minion. I at least tried to get a minion build going because I tested some stuff before, and apparently there was stuff in the patch note that Shadow nerfed minions for some reason, and I had to transition into ED Contagion at like level 30 or something because I got so incredibly frustrated by playing minions because it did not feel like anything. I don't know how it is in endgame now. I just don't really like the playstyle in endgame. That's kind of the reason why I never went for a minion build with endgame. The only reason I wanted to go for a minion build for a campaign to get me through campaign was I kind of had the inkling in my head that it would just be a smooth campaign ride, and it wasn't. Minions, companions, specters all kind of have the same problems to them. It's one thing, it's just the AI. It's just they never do what you want them to do. They are basically glorified meat shields at some point, depending on what you're doing. And if you're not like fully going into, I know at the start of the league, there were a few lich builds that were using like skeletal snipers or skeletal mages. That looked pretty cool, but that was basically because you just stack them and stack them and stack them and stack them, and then the visual clutter on the screen was just insane. It didn't seem like something that was intended to be this way. The way it is right now, and it's the same for specters, for companions and minions. It's just not enjoyable, especially if there's just builds in the game where you have all the agency and you don't rely on a minion doing actually what you want them to do. And there needs to be some improvement to not just the companions, what we just talked about, but what entails a minion build as well. I have hopes that, especially with the coming druid and stuff, and more stuff on the passive tree where the druid is probably starting, might actually have some minion stuff. If they go with the D2 angle again, we might have another minion build coming with the druid, and then that could also mean that we have some improved companions or whatever. So yeah, I don't know as well why they decided to nerf the only good specters that people were going for, because at the start of the league there was like a huge excitement for specters because there were actually a few ones. I think what were Valguards or something. They were super good. It wasn't broken or anything. They were just super good. It was the main option. The best thing they could have done is to then look at those. Why are people playing these specters? And then look at other specters that are not played, and then going like, yeah, we have to make these better now. So people are not just spamming 20 Valguards, but instead they are going with a specter that's like a tank kind of meat shield in the front. Then you have a few Valguards like shooting from the back, and then another. I have no idea, to be honest, why they went, because it wasn't game breaking. It was nothing. It was not game breaking at all. If Lightning Spear was able to live, why did these get removed? Because they actually just removed. I just think like of someone like Gazi. Yeah, he probably had so much fun doing that, and he was like, "Oh, this is something I can go for now." And then they just removed basically his fun in the game, and he's probably not the only one who enjoys who enjoys minion builds or whatever, or enjoys that playstyle. Why? Why? It doesn't make sense in my opinion, because that was the only angle you could go for, because everything else was just kind of mid. And then I don't know. For example, like in an early access game, even if Valguards were like kind of doing too much damage or something, yeah, let them do too much.
Oh, yeah.
Let it be a little bit game breaking for a few weeks. Let people have fun, and then if you decide, yes, it might have been a little bit too much, kind of nerf it maybe in the next one or whatever, or add more stuff to add more options again. It's the same debate we had on the build debate again, to just like getting out the nerf hammer should always be the second one, in my opinion. Yes, if something is game breaking, it needs to be nerfed. Yes, I get that. But why not look at the other stuff that is underutilized and then lifting that up so people can... I don't know. I that is definitely something where I just scratch my head. Why was that done this way?
Specifically with my Gilded Beetle that got removed from the game, I believe that I heard that some jerks were using it as an exploit to fill the screen with as many beetles as possible, and it was like essentially DDoSing their servers, and that's why Gilded Beetle got removed. So there wasn't like a balanced reason why that one got removed. But what's funny is GGG going into 0.2 was overhyping Spectres. Like, there are going to be broken ones. Expect there to be ones that break the game, and we're just going to let them be broken. And then most of them weren't broken. None of them really did anything. And the ones that were broken got all removed. So it was just like they set it up for like the most hype patch for Spectres ever, and then the hype was removed from us. So it was just, yeah. Misa, you said you did some good research on. So what are your thoughts on why Spectres are underperforming right now?
I mean, so first off, like, completely agree with that. Like, GGG talking about Spectres like they were going to be crazy. Like, I don't know. Like, the whole thing was also, I think they even topped it off by saying, like, hey, you know, we just want you guys to have some fun. So, you know, if some of them are broken, that's totally fine as long as you're enjoying it, right? So them going back on that was kind of crazy. Really did not like that. But in terms of like what I've learned about Spectres and what I've researched about Spectres is, I think, first things first, one of the big issues with Spectres is like the fact, well, first off, the movement speed of Spectres. I think that's a big problem. Like, you have some Spectres, some minions that just move at like 0 miles an hour. They literally like walking inches, and like they never catch up to you. They can't keep up to you. And that's the same for companions. If you take some certain beasts, like I remember like there's one that like lobs like little poison chaos pools onto the ground. It's like a little kind of like turtle looking thing. It literally moves at Mach 0. They never keep up with you. That's like one of the biggest issues for me is like the movement speed of them. So it makes it so that certain Spectres that could be good are just not viable because they're so slow. But I think that has a bigger kind of premise of like, I think the biggest problem with Spectre beyond just the move speed thing, which is pretty easy to change, right? You can just move the move speed up. The base move speed for Spectres will match your character, kind of like how minions do it. But I think the other issue and like the biggest difference between Spectres between PoE 1 and PoE 2 is that Spectres at the end of the day are just monsters turned into like pets, basically, right? So when you turn them into Spectres, for the most part, they stay the same as what they were in terms of behaviors as monsters. And in PoE 2, monsters, a lot of times compared to PoE 1, where a lot of them will kind of just run up to you and attack you immediately, in PoE 2, a lot of monsters try to juke around, or like they try to like, you know, do some fancy movement before they shoot their attack, or even just some of the monsters just have really, really long animations that don't exist in PoE 1, because in PoE 2, it is a more, you know, methodical, meaningful combat, right? Where you are meant to be able to dodge some of these attacks, or like, you know, when you're surrounded by mobs, you'll lay traps like, oh, okay, like the mushroom mancers, right? They'll lay some mushrooms on the ground that don't immediately pop. They kind of are there to make it so that players have an obstacle to look at and kind of dodge while they're playing the game, as opposed to monsters. They don't care about that. They just run over it, and just, you know, as a result, a lot of times those delayed attacks that the monsters set up for like 3-4 seconds just end up missing. Like, either because, again, it's a delayed attack that comes later, or it's just an attack that you have to charge up and it comes out and they wind up and it just ends up missing these, all like an entire screen of white mobs. It's just like, all right, we're just not going to hit them. So I think like that at the end of the day is one of the biggest issues, is that Spectres are just monsters first that are designed to be attacking the player, and they're not designed to fight other monsters. And that causes Spectres to be pretty bad in the game at the moment. And I think in general, minions as a whole, because they have a spirit cost to them, and they automatically revive, as opposed to minions in PoE 1 that are meant to, you're trying to make them beefy so you don't have to revive them as often, because like, I don't know, because of the whole automatic revival system in PoE 2, I feel like in general, GG might see it as an incentive to not make them as survivable as they need to be. Like, we always have these issues of like minions just getting one shot by bosses, which, you know, is another problem with Spectres as well. Just like, I think because of that mentality of like, oh, they automatically revive, it makes it so that GG in their mind is like, you know, these minions are supposed to die. They're not supposed to be alive forever. Whereas in Path of Exile 1, they're kind of meant to be pretty survivable. And as a result, a lot of these problems do end up going away.
Yeah,
I think it's just a lot of missed opportunities on that regard. I think I still remember how incredibly excited everyone was on the whole Spectre announcement. I honestly think it was probably one of the most exciting factors most of people had in my chat when we were live watching the announcement. It's an incredible concept that just fell very, very flat, and I really, really hope that is something they will address in the future. And like you just said, I don't see a reason why some of them couldn't be much, much stronger. And why not even have it in a way that some of them are basically unkillable? Because as it is right now, it's not like anyone is using them to one-shot pinnacle bosses or whatever. It just opens up so many possibilities of cool build ideas. Not necessarily strictly minion builds, but just like overall, I could have a cool little Spectre just as a addition into my lightning arrow build that is just like blinking in front of me and just distracting enemies or whatever. There's just so many cool things that we could have with these. That I it was just without being too harsh, it was kind of like a little bit work wasted. It was a complete system that they integrated here, and it just like Rogue Exiles, for example, there was a lot of stuff in this 0.2 update here where people just didn't really care. I could name at least 5. It was like parry mechanic was kind of wasted time. Spectres were kind of wasted time. I wouldn't say companions still, but because a lot of people
Wisp anymore.
Yeah, and it's just in the end, I really hope it is something of a learning effect, and I'm very, very sure it is. I think everyone like working at GGG is seeing the same things we are seeing. We're not like the messiahs here or whatever. I would never think that I had the problem solving abilities of anyone that is working at GGG. So us just repeating these problems we're having right now, I think that is 100% something that is to be built upon in the future. And it's definitely unfortunate that it happened this way, but it's to be expected that stuff like this happens. And it's just something, there are so many opportunities still here, and Spectres, companions, minions, whatever, are just one of them, I think.
Yeah, I'm just getting like flashbacks to 0.2 lead up. Like, I legit have an entire video where I'm like hyped about making the Blood Thief Queen into a minion build of Spectres. Like, I was so amped for Spectres, like, and it just all fell flat within the first week. And like, yeah, it was a big miss across the board. I like the points you bring up. The one that, like, first of all, like, it's just their base movement speed. I was playing with 2 of the slower ones, Blood Thief Queen and the Gilded Beetle. You would have to like essentially just get so far away from them that they would teleport to you. That was how you made them move. Like, they just were too slow. So I agree that whether that's scaled off of the percentage, scaled towards the player's movement speed or off a percentage of their move speed or whatever it is. And I love the point that you brought up about the AI, because like when I see it functionally working in game, you nailed it. They just definitely feel like minions, and like the minions that we summon from skill gems were designed functionally in their AI to function immediately like a minion would in any other game. It snaps to what it wants to attack. Like, they're very responsive as you would want a summon to be, whereas a lot of these Spectres don't. Like, it feels like it was just code copied over with no adjustments at all. So I feel like you nailed it there. We're going to need a lot of love there. And I also agree with what you said too, Rat, about how we were just missing a bunch of like one-off Spectres. I thought Spectres were going to be a staple for a lot of builds. Like, there would be aura, like some with auras or something, or like that provide certain debuffs that were like armor breaking or something. Like, I felt like you would just easily be able to slot in a Spectre for 30 spirit on a lot of builds, and it would like there would just be like 1 or 2 ones, like just single Spectres that would help you or something. And that just like across the board is a no. Like, I can't. It's just bad. It is a complete failure of a system in my mind. Like, to be as blunt as possibly you can be. Like, there's like, it was fun to get to see them, and I'm sure like from GGG's end, releasing it was not a failure. I'm sure they've learned an insane amount this patch. But from the player's perspective, Spectres are like a complete like. We have the foundation and it looks great, but in terms of functionality in game, they are not even close. So.
And actually, I think there's something that's pretty interesting that I didn't bring up in terms of another issue with Spectres is like their cost. I read somewhere or watched somewhere that Spectre's costs are based, like their spirit costs are based off of their EXP, like how much EXP they give. So it's like not necessarily how good they are as Spectres, but just like how much EXP they give. So it ends up being like some of the Spectres that you might want to run just cost way too much, even though they aren't like that amazing, or like the utility they provide isn't that great.
Yeah, that was a big weird one. Yes, the experience of them. So yeah, it's something that'll be built on over time. For minions, I've only done really skeletal archers. For me, it's just it's the same complaint most people makes about minions. It's just like at some point in late game, you're going faster than your minions can keep up with you, and you're having to constantly like the game is threatening enough to the point that you can't get too far in front of your minions. But you like kind of almost have to at times to lead them, and then or you're either like having to use the command to like position them in front of you constantly. Like it felt like I was playing almost an RTS or a MOBA at times when I'm playing minion builds because of how much like weird micromanagement I'm having to do over my minions to get them into positions I want. Especially when you're doing the setups with like the buffs that they can do and whatnot with the offerings. So. It really just feels like they just need like some love fun like from the foundation level, and it's just be built up over time. Yeah.
Make Gazi enjoy the game again, please.
Yeah, it's okay. It's sad that there's that many minions accessible. Like how many minions? Like 100 plus, right? And none of them are viable. That's just like a big.
It's crazy.
That's a big L of a statistic. All right, let me take a look at the notes here. Let's just go into build of the week, and we'll save the rest of this for next week, probably.
Sure.
Yep.
All righty, let me get my build open. All right, so this is one from a couple months ago from a creator called Kappas. So after our armor talk last week, I remembered a build I saw at the start of 0.2. It's an armor stacking sorcery ward witch hunter. This build has okay offenses, but Kappas was wanting to showcase the full potential of the defenses of witch hunter here. Sorcery ward is an ascendancy passive from witch hunter that converts your armor and evasion into an absorbed shield for elemental damage. By stacking armor as high as he could and then combining it with Defiance Banner, which increases his armor by 85% more, and then Scavenge Plating, which when you break armor just gives you flat more armor or extra armor. He was able to get over 60,000 armor in combat, which when you're getting hit by anything physical, you're gonna of course survive. And then of course with the 60,000 armor being converted into sorcery ward, you have a 20,000 plus elemental damage absorb. So despite the fact that he is running around at 20 to 30% elemental resistances, he is virtually unkillable because he is never getting hit by anything that is going to hit that hard. Now, for specifically something like Arbiter of Ash, he can stack fire resistance by swapping out some of his charms, get to 90% fire resistance, and he can tank 2 of the fire one-shots from Arbiter with this build. Not get one-shot by it. It just goes to show you that there is a potential to reach these big peaks. Again, the biggest problem with this build is its damage. It can clear tier 4 Zet. It does like have the possibility. It's not a bad build, with the Trample Toe and its clearing potential, but with Chaos Inoculation obviously as well, he's not taking any Chaos damage. He's really at only risk of physical and elemental damage because he can absorb so much of it. Like you look at his life, he's got 1 life, 66 energy shield, and then the rest of his survivability comes from Mind over Matter, where it's like he's taking the damage in mana. So anything that does get through, he ain't really gonna take that damage. So it was a really cool build. It was from a while back. Showed you the potential of armor stacking. 60,000 armor with 27,000 sorcery reward is freaking awesome. Like that is so cool. I know it's another Caltrops build. I've already showed off 2 Caltrops builds. I'm not doing that on purpose. The point of this build was specifically showing off 60,000 armor with 27,000 sorcery ward. It's from a couple months ago, but yeah, like in the comments of it, even like Jungro popping off about this build, he was hyped about it. This was a really cool. Like I've always been hyped about Witch Hunter. I feel like it's a sleeper. Like I said, over time, Witch Hunter is going to be one of the more stronger and versatile ascendancies out there. And this just goes to showcase you that if armor does get some tweaks, we're in a realm where Witch Hunter might be thriving in 0.3. Have you guys ever done anything like this, like stacking that hard of a defensive stack, either with evasion or energy shield? Like 60,000, this is an insane amount of armor.
The only thing that it was kind of comparable to what I did this league was just the ED Contagion build and the 20,000 energy shield that I had there with the defensive layer of Lich with the I think it was 25 just flat out damage reduction on top of the 20,000 energy shield. And I think I mentioned this before, but Captain Lance did a version of that build as well, where he tanked the Arbiter one-shots as well. It kind of shows you very, very well the capabilities of this. And even more exciting with maybe a looming armor rework. I really hope so. It could be super, super fun. This just shows again and again how much creativity can go into this here, because I've never seen this.
Yeah, it's built sick. I completely forgot about it.
Yeah. I don't build survivability on my builds, so
yeah.
I build minimum survivability on my builds, so definitely have never stacked armor or anything like that, like this. And in general, right, there's not much stuff in the game that really rewards stacking survivability. It's kind of like the whole conversation that Ziz had that one time with Jonathan. So if we're able to get things like in Path of Exile 1, where we can do like armor stacking builds that do translate into damage, potentially some more opportunities for me to do there.
Yep, that's the build I wanted to show off. Shout out to Capis. Capis. I want to be very clear with how I'm enunciating that.
It's not okay.
Yeah. It's
the build smells bad. Okay.
No, nothing like that. Nothing like that. Your build, Rabbit?
Yeah, the one I wanted to show off for this week is a double Mjolnir build by Rake the Chef. He's also streaming on Twitch, so big shout out to Rake. He is the one that I did all the crafting stuff as well. He's just a swell guy. This is basically, again, I think everyone who's seeing this right now feels like they are remembering the 0.1 days, because this feels and looks like Tempest Flurry. It's not. It's Boneshatter, actually. Boneshatter works kind of weird this league. I never really realized how Boneshatter was working until I saw versions of this build, because the more attack speed you have, basically makes it so that Boneshatter is making you spin. This is basically a I don't know if anyone played like the Whirlwind Barb in Diablo 2 or Diablo 3. This is basically a Whirlwind build like that, and it is just Boneshatter. And then everything else in this build, and the clear you see right here, is due to the Mjolnir. You have double Mjolnirs. You can slot the Mjolnir with any lightning spell you would ever want. I think in this case he's using probably Arc, maybe Spark, stuff like that. It kind of depends a little bit on what you're doing. When mapping, you maybe want Spark or Voltaic Mark or whatever. And for bossing, for example, you just you go with a Arc route. It can be a pretty high investment. It can also not be. It's not that hard to set up, actually. And you guys can see that in the mobalytics where that will be attached. It is a Deepest Tower setup. Surprise, surprise. It is, again, a build that utilizes Deepest Tower. So, yeah, that is very, very essential to this build. I think especially when you go, maybe you can show the T4 Zesh clip real quick. What we're seeing right now is the mapping portion, obviously, but you will see why he's using Deepest Tower here. And yeah, other uniques here are obviously Trample Toe. You can see in the mapping portion here, the Trample Toe is very essential for the clearance stuff. and then it is just attack speed, attack speed, attack speed. This is on a gemling, by the way. I should mention that, of course. You kind of need to do a gemling if you don't want to use Astromantis. Yeah, that is the T4 Zesh clip. You kind of need gemling. You can probably do this on other builds. It might be a necessity to use Astromantis then. This version is definitely the most strong version of this build, with a amulet with spell skills and everything. So yeah, it is just, it is the Mjolnir dream, to be honest. It is an amazing build. It kind of reminds me of Tempest Flurry from the last league. It's super, super good.
No, that's sick. I'm already I haven't had an itch to play the game in a couple weeks now, and I'm like, I want to level a character and do a Thorns version with this. Like, no troll, I think I can make Thorns work with this, and like seeing this is like super exciting. Because there's a lot of ways you can get the attack speed that fast. Like, there's the one Ascendancy passive on the bottom tree that's like, not Ascendancy passive, but the Keystone that's like when you're using only one-hander. One-hander, you get like 30% more attack speed or something like that. So like you could easily scale up your attack speed and find the damage scaling up. Not easily, but for meme people like me, seeing something like this is what gets the gears turning. This is why I wanted to do this kind of stuff, because like I'm immediately like, oh, this is something I haven't even seen or thought of, and I can implement it into my play style. Maybe. I don't know, but this is freaking cool, dude.
Yeah,
I'm glad we got the mapping footage of it, because when I saw the boss kill earlier, I was like, oh, that's all right. But this, like, seeing it move around like this, and that it's like scaling off of attack speed, and it doesn't look like he's having mana issues either. It looks like he's just like, that's sick, dude.
He's running mana remnants. That's why.
Yeah, mana remnants. Nice. It's just you need one jewel with recover mana on kill, and you're kind of good. Yeah. If you, I think mana remnants. I think maybe you can correct me in chat. I think mana remnants are mainly also for bosses. It's just something that makes it a little bit easier to play. Yeah, this is an insane build. You can obviously see you don't even movement speed, so you can use Trample Toe. A big downside that a lot of builds are always having with Trample Toe is that, I only get 50% movement speed. You don't care about that in this build, because your speed, just like Tempest Flurry in the last league, your speed is just dependent on your attack speed here. And Mjolnir both have, like, you're using double Mjolnir here, and you can get up to 20% attack speed on each Mjolnir. So that is already like a huge factor here. And then you get attack speed gloves. It has such a high ceiling. It's an insane build. I tried to get this going. I really disliked the playstyle, and it was always like super, super squishy when I came to Delhi maps. Rake made it in a way like now where I would just pick this up now. He completely perfected this. Did a lot of cooking on this. Yeah, insane build. I'm not sure if Boneshatter is supposed to work that way. That is I don't know. Pretty sure this could be something that people can pick up next week. I'm pretty sure. I'm legit thinking like we're gonna come to next week's episode. I'm gonna be like, hey guys, I want to showcase my Boneshatter Thorns build that we got off a break. So it's like looking at this is like something I don't know. That's cool looking. Yeah, good work, dude.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of the Whirling Slash builds that got really popular this league with the way that it moves. I definitely think that the Whirling Slash builds are faster, in my opinion. But I think that in terms of the single target prowess of this looks really strong.
I just hate the way Whirling Slash feels. Like, I hate how herky-jerky it is. Like, that just throws me off.
Don't get me wrong, this build
smoother.
This build can feel pretty herky-jerky as well. You will get stuck sometimes.
It looks almost like Molten Blast, but like better than Molten Blast. Yeah.
Obviously Rake is saying it as well in chat. Like, big shout out to, of course, a Korean who discovered that Boneshatter works like that. That was like the starting off point that we both did on this.
Was it Asta?
No. It was just like we both saw it. I think originally, I sent him the video where I was like, yo, do you have any idea that Boneshatter works like that? And we both know. And Rake just perfected it then.
Yeah, no, that's
super awesome build.
No, this is like, as build makers, I think we can all agree. It's like, whenever these are like I call them aha moments, but this is like a bigger than an aha moment, right? Like, this is like this is something you would not expect. Like I talked about earlier, Beerus, we never expected Beerus to operate this way. This is not something how you would not fundamentally think Boneshatter would ever turn into this. So when you see it, it just opens up a realm of possibilities of builds that like weren't there before. And yeah, I don't know. This is the shit I live for. This is so cool, dude. Good job.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that is the build of the week. Sorry, I forgot I had to host this part. We actually had a lot more topics to go over, which gets to transfer over to next week, which is cool. But yeah, I'm glad we had this talk about minions and stuff. It was a good topic. Again, shout out to Farham, shout out to Darth Microtransaction, and shout out to the creators we just featured. There's a content drought right now, and you guys are helping us through it. But we will be back next week where we will be talking about I don't know if next week we're going to be doing normal topics or not, or if we're going to be trying to do like, I feel like right now is the perfect time for a 0.3 predictions episode or something like that. So we'll see what next week's going to be about, and we might have a guest next week or something. But in the comments down below, please let us know what you are predicting for 0.3, your biggest wants, your biggest like desires. What do you think Path of Exile 2 needs the most right now? But thank you guys for tuning in. I am Kaltorak. I mainly just do YouTube stuff, so just follow my YouTube channel. Whenever I stream, I usually go live on YouTube. So follow me on YouTube at Kaltorak.
Yep. You can find me on, as per usual, YouTube, MisoxShiru, and also Twitch at MisoxShiru as well. Recently, I don't think it's a secret, I've been playing a ton of Uma Musume, been playing Torchlight as well. I think coming up is probably, I'm going to try to get into that Blue Protocol beta, so I'll be playing that if I can as well.
Yeah, I'm streaming on Twitch as well. Still, I'll probably never stop. I'm taking a little bit of a break of PoE 2 right now because I just feel like I need a little bit of a break. So if you want to see some subpar teamfight tactics plays, that is going to be my game for the next 2 weeks or something. And then as soon as we get some news on PoE 0.3, I will do a big launch stream as well for PoE 0.3. So if you guys want to hang out in my stream when the game launches, when the 0.3 patch launches, we're gonna have a fun time.
Oh yeah, expect a lot of 0.3 stuff coming up as we are ramping towards that. Expect potentially longer episodes and deeper dives as we get these patch notes and stuff. But that's it for episode 3. We'll see you guys next week for episode 4. Bye-bye.
Peace out, folks.
I feel the need to always end with a bye-bye.